Listen, but it's Kush Africa. It's Kush. Hold on. It's Kush Africa. It's Kush Africa.
Yes, but it's not.
Okay, no. So now wait a minute. The garden. Hold on, sir. The garden, right? Hold on. The garden has 4 rivers. That's the boundaries. It goes from Africa to Asia. Historically, what are those people referred to as? Can you tell me? Afro-Asiatic people. Because these people interact and live between both continents. They live in the land of Kush, they live in the land of Egypt, they live in the land of Nubia, and they also live in Mesopotamia, right? What's now considered Africa and what's now considered Asia, right? So, but as we can see, there's 2 rivers on the west side, right, on the Africa side, and there's 2 rivers on the east side, on the Asia side. That's why they call that the Afro-Asiatic region. That's why the people, all the languages of those areas, Amharic, which is the language of the Kushites, right, Hebrew, which is the language of the Israelites, those languages are called what? Afro-Asiatic languages, because those continents intersect at that point, right? So give me that.
Genesis chapter 2, verse 8. And the Lord God planted a garden in eastward in Eden.
The garden is eastward in Eden, right? That's very important to understand. The garden is eastward. It's to the east, right? Go ahead.
And there he put the man whom he had formed.
He did what?
Put the man whom he had formed.
He put the man in the garden. The man does not originate in the garden. The man originates from somewhere else. Show me where he formed it from the dust, right? So the man originates from somewhere else, then he placed him in the garden that was east of wherever he already was, right? That's important to understand. Go ahead.
Genesis 2 and 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground.
Formed man of what?
Of the dust of the ground.
That's important. Give me the Hebrew on dust. Go ahead.
This is the Hebrew word apar.
Apar or afar. That's what it transliterated as. That's where you actually get the term Africa from the Hebrew word afar. So literally what it's saying is he took the man out of what's known as Africa and moved him eastward into the Garden of Eden that's between Africa and Asia. So it's telling you that life did start in Africa according to the Bible. Brother, I just went through it. You're so busy caught up trying to make your point that you're not even paying attention to what I'm saying,
Actually,
kid.
you're wrong. Everything you're saying.
Okay, so what did I say?
We were talking about there was 4 rivers and I looked it up. And right here you are right. But the other ones are right over here, in this side. So
yes, I didn't doubt that.
Look how long and how much land that is. How many miles do you think that is? Right
yes, I couldn't tell you.
How big is the Garden of Eden?
It's huge. It's huge.
Look at that. That's almost. Do you see it?
It's huge. Yes, I know how big the Fertile Crescent is, sir.
Look right here. That would be the Fertile Crescent.
Okay. No, you just told me you listened to everything I said. Tell me what I just said.
Now we went on something else, so I missed some things. So please,
but you just told me you listened to everything.
And I'm mistaken, so please tell me again.
So let's go back through it one more time. Right? Go ahead.
Genesis 2 and 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust. Okay, verse 8. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden.
So he planted a garden eastward in Eden, right? This is important. The Garden of Eden is a specific place in Eden. What does the word Eden mean? It means paradise, meaning God made paradise in the whole earth. The whole earth was paradise, but he picked out a garden or the most green place in all of paradise, which is the Fertile Crescent. Anybody can look up the Fertile Crescent from the Nile to the Euphrates. It's the most fertile land in the whole planet Earth, right? Let's keep going.
It says, and there he put the man whom he had formed.
There he what?
Put the man whom he had formed.
He put the man in the garden, meaning the man was in the garden the man wasn't in the garden prior to that. He was put in the garden. And the garden is east of wherever he was. So if the garden starts at the Nile, right, and goes to the Euphrates, he's from east of the Nile, which is the rest of Africa. Let's further prove that, verse 7.
Verse 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground.
He formed man of the dust of the ground. Give me the Hebrew word for dust.
Afar, which means dust.
Which means dust. Afar. That's where you actually get the term Africa from. Give me the article on that. Give me the Wikipedia article on Africa, right? It's going to give you 5 sources for the etymological theories about Africa. 3 of them agree that it comes from the Hebrew word for afar.
This is Africa.
Right, which 3 out of 5 agree that it comes from the Hebrew word afar. So the majority of history and scholarship agrees that the word Africa derives from the Hebrew word afar. It said that Adam came from afar and then was placed in the garden east of afar. So that's telling you that it started in Africa, right? Go ahead.
So it says the name had usually been...
Hold on, sir. You see, here's my problem. You're not listening. Are you listening? Okay, 4 rivers. One compasses Kush. Where is Kush?
Kush, from what I understand, is Egypt.
No, Kush is Ethiopian, Somalia, and Eritrea, and Djibouti. That region is Kush, right? Yes, that's the Horn of Africa. Egypt is Nubia and stuff like that above that, right? But the same water, the same river compasses all that. But you have to remember, you're reading about before the flood. So before the flood, the earth was called what? Pangea. There was no continental drift and divide, so it didn't look exactly how it looks now. But the point is, from the Nile to the Euphrates, that's the Fertile Crescent, that's the Garden of Eden. We just read that man, or Adam, came from east of the Nile River. He came from east of the garden. What's east of the garden? I mean, Salaki, what's west of the garden? The garden, he said he got placed eastward, right, from wherever he was. So he was west of the garden. What's west of the garden? The whole rest of the continent of Africa. I mean, you just had the map. What's west of the Nile River? I mean, you don't have to look. Everybody knows what's west of the Nile. What's west of the Nile is the rest of the whole rest of Africa.
Far.
Okay, so what's west of the Nile River? The Nile River runs down, it looks like, from the Mediterranean Sea down to, what does that say right there? Lake, whatever. I can't read that.
That's the Pink Lake.
Pink Lake? Yeah, I know what you're talking about like that. Yeah, that's actually dope. Here's a better image. So it starts from the very top, Africa, the Mediterranean Sea.
And this is talking about the time before continental drift.
So one thing I don't understand about that part is how long do you think it takes for continental drift to occur?
I mean, it depends.
So according to
hold on, let's what's west? Hold on, what's west of the Nile River, sir?
What's west of the Nile River is the rest of the continent that the Nile River rests in.
Which is what?
The continent itself rests in Africa.
Which is Africa, right?
Right, but also east of it is other African countries. We're looking at it right here.
Okay,
so what's east of the Nile River is also Africa.
What is the point we're talking about here, though, sir?
The point that I was telling him was that according to the Bible, what I read, is that, and everything that I looked at, is that the Garden of Eden is actually in Iran. I'm sorry, Iraq. Over there in the
brother, we've just hold on. Let's stop that right there. We just disproved that, though.
What did you disprove?
That the Garden of Eden was just not. First of all, you said Iran. It's Iraq, not Iran.
Yeah, my bad.
It's not just it's from Egypt to Iraq.
That's north.
From Egypt to Iraq.
So what's north of Egypt?
What's north of Egypt? Presently the Mediterranean Sea. Previously what you would know as Europe.
Both.
You think about Chinese people, Japanese people, North Korean people, right? But even India, I mean, India is looked at as a subcontinent, right? India is its own subcontinent because it's so big, but it's technically Asia, right? But when you think about what an Asian person is, you're thinking about a Chinese, a Japanese, and that's way the far as hell away from all that other stuff.
Yeah, that's the stereotypical shit. When they think about Hispanics as only like light skinned niggas,
exactly,
niggas like my complexion.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So that's like somebody else's like influencing everybody else. So wrong.
Yeah, but the thing is, a North Korean is not the same as, let's say, an Arabian, right? They're not the same, but they technically sit on the same continent. But an Arabian has been dealing with, trading with, getting information from Africa, and culturally a lot closer to Africa than they'll ever be to a North Korean. So, is it appropriate to call them an Asian?
Yeah, they're not continents.
But who came and redefined it? Who came and called Asia Asia? Because when you deal with Asia, right? Asia originally comes from just the region that we know today as Turkey. That was Asia. Asia Major, Asia Minor. Then that term was taken and applied to the entire continent. Why was it applied to the entire continent? Because you have people from those regions who migrated. Well, that's why, like, if you look up like Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, you see people that look similar to Chinese people all throughout those regions. Well, why? Because of migrations from that area over in Turkey all the way throughout what we now know today as Asia. So that's how that term Asia ended up getting blanketed on that whole continent. But that whole continent was not known as Asia. Even the concept of a lot of these continents, we know that Europeans came and just said, okay, this is going to be this, and this is going to be that, and that's going to be this, and that's going to be that, right? You see what I'm saying?
So then what happened to, like, there's maps of the Silk Trade, the Silk Road? It's like we did that.
Well, yeah, we did that cartography, yes.
We named those lands, correct? So no white man had anything to do mapping out what the Silk Road was.
Well, you had black people, Arabs, and Asians that were contributed to the Silk Road. But these places have names. I'm talking about the remix names, the new names that came later. You see what I'm saying? A lot of these people had their own names on these lands. Like, for example, when you deal with Leoscipius Africanus, right, which is who they say the continent of Africa is named after. It's not named after that. He adopted that name because he conquered the Afar region. That's where Africanus came from. So the Afar, again, like I was going into, that's a Hebrew word. You had a group of people, the Afar people came and settled off in North Africa. These are the people that you know today. Like if you look in Libya, you got Bedouin people, right? People that migrate all over North Africa. Those are the Afar people. So that's where that name actually comes from, right? Check this back. That's where that name actually comes from, of Africa. So the whole continent of Africa was not even initially called Africa. Only the northern part of Africa was called Africa. Then later, it all became Africa. Here's the cold part. When we deal with Europe, right? Europe is named after Queen Europa. Queen Europa was a black woman, right? So that whole continent of white people is actually named after a black woman. That's the only continent that's really like that. You see what I'm saying? Everything else, America is after Americo Vespucci, right? Asia is not after any person, but it's a term. I forget what it means. I think it means east, no? No, the Orient means east. Asia means something else. Like, look up Asia for me, because I forget. Asia is like a term. Yes.
Because you know what I know is like words are very...
Yeah, Asia is a Greek word, and what does it mean? Resurrect. Apparently resurrection, right? So that's Asia, and Europe is after Queen Europa. Africa is after the Afar people, and it also means like dust, right? Because remember that northern region of Africa, that's the Sahara Desert, right? Dust, right? And then of course, like we said, America from Americo Vespucci. But so they came in and superimposed a lot of these names. Most people, like for example, when you deal with Egypt, we call it Egypt, right, in the English, but we know Egypt, they call themselves the land of Kemet or Tamaret. Right? Boom. Even like Ethiopia, because like I said, the Greeks came and put that term burnt face or Ethiopia on the Cushites. And there was a time where they were calling anybody dark-skinned Ethiopian. It didn't even pertain to a region, but they were saying, y'all, compared to us, you guys have burnt faces, right? So it's a derogatory term. So even when Ethiopian call themselves Ethiopian, they calling themselves a derogatory term. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Even let's deal with the term Nigerian. Nigerian is even a derogatory. Next to Niger. You see what I'm saying? Now, granted, if you take it all the way back etymologically, it literally just means black man. That's all the term actually means. But we know in the last 500 years that term has been taken, weaponized, and has a derogatory connotation. It's been grossly perverted, and we know if we hear that, we're going to be triggered by it. You see what I'm saying? Because we know how it's being used. So, and we know that they came and put those names on it in modern time. But in ancient, like, look, get Acts 13:1, right? Show you this in the Bible.
This is Acts 13:1. Now that were in the church that was at Antioch, certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called nigger.
See that? So that's in the scriptures, right there. Boom.
We in that shout.
Acts 13:1. So that term was already being applied back then, but 2,000 years ago when that term was being applied, it literally just meant black man. There wasn't a negative connotation on it. You see what I'm saying? So go ahead, yeah, matter of fact, read it. When you read because you know this is King James, so this translates 1600s. When you read the more modern translation, look what it said.
Among the prophets and teachers of the church at Antioch of Syria were Barnabas, Simeon, called the black man.
Called the black man. You see what I'm saying? So the more modern translation knows that just means black man. So we just gonna put the black man in there. You see what I'm saying?